The Muslim communities, in fact, in France, over the last 2 generations, we can see that they have been negotiating with the state and negotiating their presence within the society, while it's still very difficult, because it's not only a religious question, it is the consequence of this religious visibility on the job market, in the streets, and what we have in the suburbs, for example, that the Muslims are the most important population in jail in France today. Yeah. This is the reality. And more than that, we are dealing with, questioning in the streets and sometimes discrimination. We were talking in the VT, we were getting what happened. You were referring to a woman who was beaten by people, but we also have discrimination. So how do they have to deal with this old setting here?
I mean, this has become a sort of when there are legislations, when there are for example, the Interior Minister recently, there was a woman who went to nursery, and her small child was going to a museum, and she wanted to accompany her.
Yeah.
She was told, no, you can't accompany because you are wearing the headscarf.
Exactly, yeah.
And now this was disallowed by a court, and the court said, no, it should not extend to those. But it was overturned by the government. And the Interior Minister said that we won't allow a practice that has to do nothing. I'm telling the words of the Interior Minister. He said, we won't allow a practice, the practice of hijab, which has nothing to do with our values and tradition. Now this is a very dangerous mindset.
Yes. Yeah.
If you make France a place where everybody should conform to the what's already the native traditions and the values, it won't let the communities grow, and it's not the right way of looking at things, that everything should conform to your own values and traditions. So actually Muslims in France, I think they are, some of them are paying fines, where they are refusing to take out the hijab, and they are paying fines for this. But I think they have a difficult way to go, and
it's difficult. But I think what you are saying is that we have it's multi-layer reality where we are dealing with religious history, and what we are saying about secularity and secularism and religion. What we are talking about the visibility, and what we are also dealing with is this kind of policy coming from the government itself, which is the Home Minister and others who are sometimes targeting the Muslims.
And what I wanted, sorry to interrupt you, and what I wanted to tell, the point I wanted to raise there was, when the minister says such things, and when there are legislations again and again, that gives some sort of legitimacy. Although it's not written that it should give legitimacy, but somehow that gives some sort of legitimacy to these racist attacks and Muslim women with hijab becoming targets of, that somehow paves way for it. That's a dangerous thing.
Yes. So at the end, if you have to assess the situation in France, would you say that, for example, there is a specific policy targeting the Muslims? Is this something that you would go as far as to say, in France, we are now dealing with a policy which is targeting the Muslims? There is the Islamophobia, but it is even more than that in all the different dimensions that we are referring to.
It has almost boiled down to that. I mean, nobody else than Muslims are suffering. So it has almost...
So you have other people, you have the Rome, for example, and people of, the people who are immigrant in the society are also suffering in a way.
Yeah, but not to the extent, and not such a discrimination. And also, as we said in the beginning, it was in the intro also, we have in France the biggest Muslim population. And they have been living there. They deserve some respect. So it's almost, it has come down to that. But let me add one more dimension to it. It was said by one of Muslim scholars some time back that as much as the Islam will emerge on political scene at the global level, which we are seeing now, it was not 30, 40 years before. It has become, Islam has become a factor in the global politics, an actor in global politics. He said as much as it will emerge on global level, the Muslim population in the Europe, it will be considered, it will have difficult times because it will be considered the extension of an emerging trend. So that's one more angle to this French, what they are doing against hijab and their enthusiasm against curbing visible symbols of Islam, just to make France clean of it. It has to do something with the emergence of Islam on the global level.
I think this is important, that very often we look at France and we look at Europe without connecting this to the international scene, and there is a connection here that is quite important. Now, when it comes to the reaction and the requirements, from where you see the situation, you don't live in France, but you are studying what is happening in France, we are talking about Islamophobia, structural racism, violence even in the streets, in jail, situations that are quite bad, and the perception is that for many Muslims that the atmosphere is very heavy, it's very anti-Islamic presence. So what should be the reaction, and what could the Muslims or the French Muslims bring to the discussion in France that is helping France to move on in a better way?
I think the first step would be for the French Muslims to bring some organization into the community. They should speak with one voice, and they should speak with one authentic Islamic voice. There were some programs conducted in Britain also, and you see Muslims are talking in different voices. We should seek guidance from authentic ulama, and it should be Muslims should come out with proper Islamic, what's the position of Islam on this? It's not that some people say covering face is not important, some say it is important. We should be coming up with an authentic Islamic position on this. I myself convinced that the hijab and the headscarf is the authentic Islamic position, and that reconciles to the requirements of the state also. The state has the requirements of identity. They should be able to check the identity of the people on streets in public. People cannot keep hiding their faces and you don't know who is who.
So what they are saying about the security measures are understandable.
They have a point there. So but first it will start when Muslims in France, they develop some organization and they come up with an authentic Islamic position.
But to do what? To face what?
These things are not, they are not, if somebody says, this is my individual right, I do it on my own, this is not a full argument. This is not this is not the whole thing. It's just a piecemeal reaction.
Yes, it's instrumentalized. It's also a pretext to something which is bigger within the society. Is that what we need now? Is, you are saying about the unity among the Muslims. Now the problem is that they are divided. We have different voices. It's not going to happen that we have only one voices or only one voice and one among all the trends. Now the problem in the French situation now is that the perception from outside is that we are dealing with a society which we have double standard when it comes to the citizens. So once again, from this citizenship viewpoint, beyond only talking about unity, there are rights to be protected. And what would be, in your view, the most important thing that we are expecting from the Muslims today in France? To help France, because my point is not Muslims against France, but Muslims as French Muslims in the name of the French society?
Yeah, I mean, to begin with, and the minimum, they should aim at. That's the minimum, and that's where a beginning can be made. That's the minimum, is that they should definitely make it the violence and the discrimination. They should create awareness about it, and they should make sure that the violence and discrimination stops. Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you so much about that. If we try to summarize what you are saying, I think it's quite important. There is something which has to do with the mindset, something which has to do with the history of France, which is in fact the fact that there is this cultural exceptionalism and trying to protect the language and everything. Muslims living in France are facing discrimination, structural racism sometimes, a very bad perception of Islam, and the new visibility, and this is something which is important, violence even against, that could come from the state. State violence and violence within the civil society are also the daily reality for many Muslims. And what you are saying is that this is time for unity, this is time for a clear understanding of the Islamic references, and not to give out on claiming the rights of the Muslim citizens, because at the end what is also important, this is done not only for Muslims, this is done for equality within a society. While that's all we have time for, please let us know your thoughts and views on any of the show you have seen, and here is the way to contact us.
We at Islam in Life would like to hear your views about the subjects that we discuss. We would also love to hear your suggestions for our program, so get in touch with us. You can share your thoughts with other Islam in Life fans, engage in debate, and find out how to watch our previous shows. Follow us on Twitter at Islam and Life TV, or join us on Facebook by liking our page, Islam and Life on Press TV.
Finally, I would like to thank my guest, Dr. Sayyid Inayatullah Andrami. Thank you so much for being with us and your input, and I hope to see you next week, inshallah.